First story, the hollow drills. I remember that night on the training grounds like it was yesterday. Fort Braddock, a place built to break men down and rebuild them into soldiers. It was my third month in training, and I had seen exhaustion, pain, and fear, but never like this. They called it a routine night drill. Our platoon was sent deep into the woods, tasked with navigating back to base without flashlights. Just the stars, the moon, and the distant sound of coyotes. Sergeant Hensley led us out, his voice sharp against the cold air. Stay together. Follow the markers. No one falls behind. But something was off. The deeper we went, the more the woods felt wrong. The usual hum of insects faded. Even the wind seemed to avoid this place. Every step felt like pushing against something unseen, something that didn't want us there. Then Private Lewis disappeared. 1 second he was behind me, breathing heavy, cursing under his breath about blisters. The next, gone. No sound, no struggle, just vanished. "Lewis?" I called out, but only silence answered. The squad halted, scanning the darkness. Hensley barked at us to hold our ground while he radioed back to base. Static. Just static. Then we saw the lights. Dim, flickering, like lanterns swaying in the wind. But there was no wind. They moved in the trees, drifting unnaturally, pulling us deeper. I swear, I heard whispers. Low, almost familiar voices murmuring our names. "Turn around, now!" Hensley ordered, gripping his rifle tighter. We didn't argue. We moved fast, but the path had changed. Where there should have been markers, there was nothing but gnarled roots and twisted branches. It was like the forest had shifted, trapping us inside. And then Lewis came back. Or at least, something that looked like him. He stood in the clearing ahead, his uniform torn, his skin pale as the moon. His eyes, God, his eyes, pitch black, empty. His lips curled into a grin that wasn't his. "You left me," he said, voice hollow, like it came from somewhere far away. "Why did you leave me?" No one moved, no one breathed. Then he lunged. Hensley fired first. The shot echoed through the trees, but Lewis didn't stop. He twisted, his limbs moving like they didn't have bones. More lights flickered in the distance. More figures stepped from the shadows, identical to him, identical to us. Copies, hollow and grinning. We ran. No sense of direction, just pure survival. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, turning into screams. Something grabbed my arm, cold, brittle fingers. I tore away, but not before feeling its grip tighten, nails digging deep. Then, suddenly, we were at the base. One moment, lost in that nightmare. The next, stumbling through the gates, gasping for air, covered in mud and blood. The search teams found no sign of Lewis, no footprints, no shell casings from the shots we fired. It was like he never existed. But I still have the scars, and at night, when I close my eyes, I still hear my name whispered from the trees. Second story, the silent night at Fort Ashwood. The night was cold, colder than it had any right to be, even for an October evening in North Carolina. I remember looking out at the empty stretch of road leading into Fort Ashwood, the eerie silence of the night pressing in on me. My name is Sergeant Jake Harris, and I've seen my fair share of things I wish I could forget. But this wasn't just another mission. It started with a routine patrol. The base had been quiet for weeks, too quiet for my liking. Some of the men joked about the old legends surrounding Fort Ashwood, about how it was built on cursed ground, but I never put much stock in ghost stories. That night, though, something felt different. The air seemed to hum with a tension that made my skin crawl. As we patrolled the perimeter, I heard it, a low, guttural noise coming from the woods. At first, I thought it was just an animal, but then I saw the trees move in a way that didn't make sense. The wind was still. My squad and I stopped, our hearts racing. We weren't alone out there. "Did you hear that?" Private Cooper whispered, his voice trembling. "Stay quiet," I ordered, already reaching for my rifle. I had no idea what we were dealing with, but my instincts told me it wasn't friendly. We moved towards the noise, staying low and alert. The woods around us were thick, and even with the flashlights, we couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Then we found it. A shack, abandoned for who knows how long. It stood in the middle of a clearing, the windows blackened and the door slightly ajar. "Anyone else getting a bad feeling about this?" Corporal Ramirez muttered, his voice barely audible. We hesitated, but we had a job to do. We approached the shack, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. As we got closer, I could see something through the broken window, a figure. I couldn't make out details, but it was there, watching us. "On three," I said, motioning for the squad to take their positions. We burst through the door. The shack was empty, but the air inside was thick with a foul stench, like something had died long ago. As we checked the room, something caught my eye. Scratches on the wooden floor, leading to a trapdoor hidden in the corner. My heart sank. Something or someone had been trapped down there. We descended into the darkness, our flashlights flickering as we moved deeper into the basement. The air grew colder with every step and the silence was deafening. Then we heard it again. That low, guttural noise. It was coming from behind us. We turned around, weapons raised, but there was nothing there. Just the shadows, stretching long and twisted. The noise was louder now, closer, almost like breathing. Private Cooper let out a scream, pointing towards the far corner. There, in the darkness, stood a figure. A man, or something that looked like one. His skin was pale, stretched tight over bone, and his eyes glowed an unnatural red. He was grinning, his teeth sharp and broken. Before we could react, he lunged. I fired, but the shot didn't stop him. The thing was faster than anything I'd ever seen. It tore through Cooper, then Ramirez, like they were nothing more than ragdolls. I tried to shoot again, but my hands were shaking. My mind was racing. This wasn't a man. It was something. Ancient. I ran. I didn't look back. I could hear the others screaming as they were torn apart. My legs burned. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. When I finally made it back to the base, I was the only one left. The military sent a team to investigate the next day, but they found nothing. No bodies, no sign of the creature. Just the wreckage of the shack, as if nothing had ever happened. I was sent home after that. They told me I'd been through trauma, that I was seeing things. But I know what I saw. I know what killed them. To this day, I don't know what that thing was, but I hear it sometimes when I'm alone. Breathing just behind me. I can't escape it. It's still out there, and it knows where I am. Third story. Whispers in the barracks. I never believed in ghosts. Not until Fort Harrison. It was an old military base, long abandoned before our unit was stationed there for training. The barracks were freezing, even in summer, and the walls seemed to breathe with every gust of wind. Guys whispered about strange noises at night, shadows moving when no one was there. I thought it was just the usual army pranks, until I saw it myself. It started on my fourth night. I woke up to a soft scratching sound from the far end of the room. The bunks were lined up in 2 rows, and most of the guys were snoring, dead asleep. But in the dim light, I saw Private Dawson sitting up, his back rigid. His head tilted slightly, like he was listening to something. "Dawson?" I whispered. No response. Then he turned toward me, slow, unnatural. His eyes were wide, mouth slightly open. And then, in a voice that wasn't his, he muttered, "Get out." My stomach twisted. The voice was hollow, layered, as if 2 people spoke at once. The hairs on my arms stood up. "Hey, man, you okay?" I climbed out of bed, but before I could reach him, his bunk shook violently. The others woke up, cursing and groaning. Dawson snapped out of it, looking around in confusion. "The hell happened?" someone asked. Dawson just blinked, dazed. I don't know," but I saw the fear in his eyes. The next night was worse. At 2:13 a.m., I jolted awake to the sound of heavy boots stomping down the hall. We were the only ones in this wing. No drills, no guards. I grabbed my flashlight and nudged Ramirez, the guy in the bunk next to mine. "You hear that?" He grumbled, half asleep. "Go back to bed, man." But I knew what I heard. I swung my legs over the bed and stood up. The air felt thick, like walking through water. The stomping continued, rhythmic, deliberate. I stepped into the hall, sweeping my flashlight left and right. Nothing. Then, movement. A figure stood at the end of the hall, tall, dressed in an old military uniform, the kind they wore decades ago. His face was pale, gaunt, but his eyes were hollow black pits. I couldn't move. He lifted his hand, pointing straight at me, and then he whispered, "You shouldn't be here." My flashlight flickered. The temperature dropped, my breath visible in the air. The figure took a step forward, then another. My legs unlocked, and I bolted back into the room, slamming the door shut. "Wake up! Wake the hell up!" The guys shot up, looking around wildly, but by the time they were awake, the noise was gone. The hall was empty. The final night, Dawson went missing. We searched everywhere, outside, the supply rooms, even the locked-off sections of the base. Nothing. Then we heard the screaming. It came from the basement. No one wanted to go, but we had no choice. Ramirez and I led the way, our flashlights casting shaky beams on the crumbling walls. The deeper we went, the stronger the smell of rot became. The air was damp, suffocating. And then we found him. Dawson stood in the center of the room, his back to us. The walls were covered in scratches, deep, jagged lines, like someone had tried to claw their way out. "Dawson," I called. He turned. His mouth was open, unnaturally wide. His eyes, black pits. Then he whispered, "It's too late." The lights blew out. The room plunged into darkness. Something cold grabbed my wrist. I screamed. And then, nothing. I woke up in my bunk. The barracks were quiet, empty. Ramirez was gone. Dawson was gone. I ran outside, my heart hammering. The base was just no trucks, no soldiers, no sound. Then I heard the boots behind me. I turned and saw nothing.